We got to start with Tony Romo. Jason Witten said today he wouldn't expect his friend Tony Romo to retire anytime soon. So with that said, if not the Cowboys, where's Tony Romo playing football next season?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily rule out the Cowboys in some capacity. You know, there's going to be a lot of emotion, sentimentality, a lot of things that will go into this decision ultimately before either he goes to Jerry Jones and says, I want to stay or I want to go, or they go to him and say, hey, well, we've got to move you because there's too much value there and we're going with the other guy. But as always in this league, there's a dearth of quarterbacks. Supply never meets demand. So, I mean, look, I can tell you a team like the New York Jets would have backed up the Brinks truck for Drew Brees if he didn't get extended in New Orleans. If they keep their current regime there, I could see them having interest in Romo. I think Paxton Lynch is going to play at some point for Denver here, maybe even by Thanksgiving. If that happens, how does he play down the stretch? Or does John Elway say, hey, I'm still just a quarterback away? And a wild card team for me are the Arizona Cardinals. I know they signed Carson Palmer to that nominal extension. Well, I got news for you. It's guaranteed for injury, but it's not guaranteed for skill. They could get out of that if they wanted to. Bruce Arians is not getting any younger. You know, I don't see them going with a developmental quarterback. Carson Palmer, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, quarterback rating of 84. That could be an upgrade for them as well. And there's some pretty strong ties between the Cardinals and the Cowboys. I'll say this, Jerry Jones won't send him to football Siberia if he's traded. Yeah. He's not going to send him to Jacksonville. He's not going to send him to Cleveland. He's not going to do that to his boy.
I think Jerry is going to consider Tony Romo and what he wants to do. You're 100% right about that. I mentioned Arizona, especially Denver earlier, Jay. Now, what are you hearing in terms of a trade situation? How would that play out? Is that something where Jerry would sit down with Tony? And what kind of compensation do you think, realistically, could the Cowboys get in a Tony Romo trade?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a strong relationship there. It's a two-way dialogue. So whenever they're about time to conduct exit interviews. And look, let's also not rule out the fact that Tony Romo plays football this year via injury or whatever, the Prescott falling apart. I mean, it's not out of the question. But, yeah, I think both sides would express where they are and what makes sense. There wouldn't be a whole lot of friction there. I think both would be amenable to the other's desires for the most part. As to what you can get, I mean, I wrote a column today. I really broke down who's going to be out there and who's not. I mean, Tony Romo would be the best available quarterback via trade if he's available. You know, then maybe somebody trades for, you know, Cutler or something like that. Free agents, Mike Glennon would be the guy. Kirk Cousins would be another guy, much more expensive, but I don't think Cousins is hitting the open market. And then the third tier is Fitzpatrick, Hoyer, you know, Sanchez, I mean, Geno Smith, right? It's just not there. So if you look at that and the fact that each week when I talk to scouts, they like the quarterback class in this draft less and less and less, I think they could do pretty well for Tony Romo. I know he's older. I know he makes a lot of money. But I think he'd be even willing to facilitate a trade via altering his contract if necessary. I think that's something where, based on performance and incentives, could move maybe all the way up to a second-round pick. I mean, that wouldn't shock me. You know, he's got to be healthy. And if he is, he's a viable trade commodity.
Yeah, I said third round before. I don't think second round is crazy, especially when you consider the free agents and the draft class. Excellent stuff, Jason. I totally agree. Let's go around the NFL a little bit here. And, you know, after a loss to the Cowboys on Sunday, Ben Roethlisberger called out his team for not being disciplined or accountable. What's going on exactly inside the Steelers locker room?
I mean, look, there's been a little friction there, particularly between some of the coordinators. Really, all three parts of the ball, special teams as well, and players. Some of the decision-making's been questioned. They've tried a lot of crazy things, from the Rabona offside kick to chasing points with 4 two-point conversions to some of the breakdowns on defense. Defensively, players are frustrated they're not more aggressive. You know, there's still that sort of hallmark of Dick LeBeau that's in that building. His spirit's still in that building. Keith Butler, who took over from, hasn't embodied that spirit. You know, offensively, I think generally they're going to be okay. Special teams, you know, they've had their miscues. So, look, Kevin Colbert, their GM's not going anywhere. Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere. But could there be some shakeup a level below? It's possible, depending on how this season plays out. I would tell you, though, if they win their remaining games in the division, they will win the AFC North and host a home playoff game at 8-8. Because I don't think Cincinnati's getting to 8-8. If the Steelers win their games against them. I don't think Baltimore's getting any better than 8-8 if the Steelers win their game against them. There is still a path for them to host a playoff game.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. I've gone through the schedules. I echo those sentiments. 8-8 is telling, but you're right. Yeah, I'm with you. They're going to end up hosting a playoff game. And, Jason, you had the report over the weekend that Matthew Stafford's going to be looking for a new contract after the 2016 season. So what is he going to be looking for? And is there any chance that a new deal gets done before then?
I don't expect any conversations to really start until the combine, but his agents at CAA, Tom Condon and the like, have let other people know, going back to the summer, that, hey, Matt Stafford's going to be our next guy up. And, you see what we did for Bradford, you see what we did for Fitzpatrick, we're going to crush that with Matt Stafford. They have targeted, CAA, the $25 million a year, parallel. That's the mark they're looking at. Andrew Luck money, Aaron Rodgers money. I believe they'll get it. As you noted, he has 1 year left on his deal. I don't suspect the Lions want him to go into a lame duck year next year and have the opportunity to play it out or to have to franchise him and go that route. Megatron's off the books. Sue is off the books. And this guy is having an MVP-type season. I don't expect CAA to back off. And, yeah, Matt Stafford, is he driving this ship? Is he going around saying, I need $25 million or anything? No, but this is how these things are done. And that's the ballpark that CAA is going to come in on. And if you look at what guys are getting right now, and you're looking at Bradford, you're looking at Flacco, you're looking at these numbers, I think he's going to get it.
Yeah, and he's had an unbelievable year. He's been tough and clutch, but if we were having this conversation a year ago, would have sounded crazy, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, you referenced the draft.
A year ago, though, who would have said Kirk Cousins would be making $20 million a year?
You like that? You like that? And you detailed.
He likes that.
He likes that. We all like that. Yeah, you detailed, Jason, pretty interesting quarterback situations in your column on CBSSports.com earlier today, which is a must-read. And one that interests me in particular, Jay Cutler in Chicago. There's no chance he's back with the Bears next year, is there?
No, I mean, not unless they hire his dad as the GM or something like that. I don't foresee it. Whether John Fox and Ryan Pace stay or whether they go, from an organizational standpoint, this has run its course. The guaranteed money on his contract is up. Now you've got the situation with Alshon Jeffrey being suspended for 4 games. I don't believe he'll be back there either. That still is actually kind of a teardown. I mean, it's almost still a teardown to build back up. The question is, what trade value will there be in him? And he's making, in excess of $18 million a year. A lot of teams think in the end maybe the Bears would just cut him anyway. Unlike a Tony Romo, where I think there could be more value than you think. I don't know that you get more than a 5th or a 6th for Cutler. And if you even get that, it's just, again, indicative of how many teams need quarterbacks and how many routes to get quarterbacks are there. And if the draft looks like it looks right now, which is not very fertile, then you got to do what you got to do in the pro ranks.
Jason, what about the 49ers? As you noted, you have to assume that Colin Kaepernick's done. And there's no way that Chip Kelly can sell us on playing Kaepernick again. So who would make sense for San Francisco?
The people who I talk to in this league who know Chip Kelly, who believe he's inclined to stick it out there even if it's 1-15, believe that he will now finally go all in on a quarterback high in the draft and develop his guy that way. Because let's face it, if he sticks around, he knows it's going to be 3 years or so before they're any good anyway. I mean, that team is bereft of talent everywhere. To your point, yes, Colin Kaepernick restructured that deal for a reason. He won't be coming back. He will void it. He'll be out of there. And then it's going to be a matter of which of these quarterbacks between the juniors who come out and the seniors does Chip Kelly think it's worthwhile to take a chance on. But, a Tony Romo at his age doesn't make sense. A Cutler doesn't make sense. Mike Glennon, I mean, maybe of the free agents, that's a guy who he sees a little Nick Foles in. But, again, I hear he's inclined to get more control of the building if he stays, to get more control of personnel because, again, they have nothing right there. The Trent Baalke spigot ran dry years ago. And then he finds his quarterback in the draft.